Hey folks, Fernando doing a video for the Mora Survivalist. I was recently asked to do a comparison video between the Mora and the Glock knife. Now these are some of the best knives, especially for the money. Besides the money, these are actually great knives all around. Some of the best in their giving groups. Now they're quite similar in some aspects as well, even though the intended use can be quite different. These are knives mostly intended for bushcrafting. This is pure military style knife. It's intended to be used as a bayonet. This is the Glock bayonet knife. Now, bayonet used in the context of this current century type of bayonet in current use, not so much the typical application of the bayonet, which was sticking in the end of the barrel and just stabbing people with it. More like a utilitarian combat knife. That's the bayonet as it is today, and the Glock excels at that. It has been designed as a fighting knife with lots of input from the Austrian special forces. You know, it sounds cool when you say that it's been designed with input from Austrian special forces or special forces anywhere. At the end of the day, it's a very classic fighting knife design. This is a design that, besides whatever input anyone had, it just simply works. It's a narrow, long blade with a made of a thick stock, pretty pointy, and yeah, it's going to be working effectively for stabbing, for fighting. It has a good amount of length. This is, I have it right here, 6.5 inches. Is it? Yeah, 6.5 inches, 16.5 centimeters of length. This is adequate for a fighting knife. It's going to be reaching vital organs. If you have clothes, fat, it's going to be going through all of that in a combatant and reaching vital organs. It's going to be causing a serious wound. A fighting knife, definitely so. But it is also intended as a utility knife. One of the things that it's understood in the modern military is that, yeah, it has a fighting application, but at the end of the day, mostly it's going to be used for opening packages, boxes, crates, for prying, for poking, anything you have to use a utilitarian tool for. This is the knife that's going to be ending up in that role. And it does it very well. If you have to dig, poke, break stuff, hammer with it even, it does it very well, and it does it in a very efficient manner, considering the weight and how much the knife costs. These are all affordable knives. Well, this one a little bit more, but the Mora Companion, one of the nicer things these knives have is the price. Like 15, 20 bucks for a Mora Companion, 25 or so for the Glock knife. I'll leave the link, as I always do, if you want to check these out in Amazon, following the link below from the affiliate program. That helps the channel and it's greatly appreciated. Price does matter in this case. Now, in spite of that, one of the cool things about this is you're talking about a 15-buck, 10-buck knife made in Sweden, right? Which is a Mora, and you're talking about a 25 military knife made in Austria. These are not made in China. These are quality products. Both of these are, well, not this one, this is stainless steel, but if you compare it to the Mora Black, the Bushcraft Black, this is also 1095. So these both are 1095 steel. And the only difference would be the hardness. You have this one hardened to about 58 Rockwell, 55 for the Glock. And that's actually perfect for the roles these knives are intended for. But what I mean by that is this is a bushcrafting knife, right? The Mora Bushcraft Black is most definitely a bushcrafting knife for whittling wood, for carving, for making little traps, feather sticks, spoons, whatever it is you have to carve and work with wood. This is a great knife for working with those natural materials. A fantastic outdoors bushcraft knife, right? Kind of like an improved version of the Companion, right? This one is a classic in the bushcraft world. This one is even better in several aspects, as I covered in the previous video. Can you use this as a kind of like a light survival knife? I think you could. In fact, many of these Puko blades have been used for combat applications as well. It has been used, in fact, the one that Mora makes for the military is basically the same old thing, just a longer blade. So as to achieve this, so as to have the length you need for a combat knife, it's basically a stretched out version of their more classic knives. And in many ways, if you look at it, there's really, there's not a ton of difference in that regard, right? This is definitely a fighting knife. You have the the guard there, and it's intended so as to protect your hand. But with a little bit of dedication, you can use this knife for carving, for whittling, for making feather sticks, for all those things, even though it's not going to be doing it as well as your Mora. It's still capable of doing all those things. The only thing is that you have less reach. This is a 4.3 inch blade. This is a 6.5 inch blade. Weight is kind of pretty much the same. These are pretty light, both of these. 5.7 ounces, 7 ounces for the Glock. It's amazing about the Glock that in spite of being so lightweight, it just balances beautifully in the hand. The Bushcraft Black also balances nicely, but this is balanced perfectly for a throwing knife, which was one more thing that was added when they designed this knife, something else that was taken into account when they designed this knife. All right, and this means you can throw this knife quite effectively, but maybe more realistic in terms of use. You can use this knife for batoning quite nicely in spite of being so lightweight. It's not ideal for batoning, for chopping, but you can use it for chopping relatively well because of how well the weight is distributed. It's just there in my index finger, and with a little bit of a lower grip right there, you can chop with it. Definitely for batoning, you're going to be better off with a Glock knife because it has more of a length. It's a wider stock in the blade as well, so it's going to be batoning nicer, much better, because you have a lot more of reach there than in your Mora. And yeah, if you have to chop a little bit, it's going to be capable of doing that. This is the Glock 78 field knife. Then you have the Glock survival knife, which would be more to the point of survival application. The only difference, the serrations. Some people don't like these much. I think it's a good addition. I think that in some cases you want to have those serrations. I mean, if you have these, you can go through wood more effectively than just having maybe to chop, maybe for making a few notches. Some people like it for that, giving it so wide. Even for cutting through plastic, that if you ever did that, if you have any big piece of plastic you have to just chew through with your straight edge, not so much. It's kind of hard with plastic, especially if it's especially in today's world where plastic is so frequently used in so many places. This is going to be chewing through plastic, through hard, thick plastic, much faster, much nicer. I think that the name serves it well as a survival knife. I definitely see how this would be. Some people like without the serrations. These are both fantastic knives, guys. For whoever is that asked about my advice, you're talking about 3 excellent knives, some of the best designs, some of the most successful designs out there, some of the best value too. But the geometry, the blade design, which I always insist on, is very sound in all of these. That would be it. I mean, trying to put this in a nutshell, the idea is this. These are clearly more intended as bushcrafting knives, very lightweight, just for whittling. The Scandi grind is perfect for whittling wood, for cutting. This is more of what it's intended for, a utilitarian knife, a combat knife that does utilitarian roles. It's definitely the better of these two for fighting. If you have to fight someone, if you have to use it for self-defense. Think about this for a second. If we're talking about survival knives, a lot of people will insist that using a knife for combat is unrealistic, fighting someone with a knife is unrealistic, but having to survive in the wilderness for an extended period of time with your knife, that is realistic. I have no doubt whatsoever. It's far more likely for you having to use a knife for self-defense, for defending your life with a knife, compared to the chances of you having to use this to save your life in the wild. That is the kind of thing that whenever it happens, which is not very frequently, when it does, it makes the news around the world because it is so infrequent. If someone stabs someone in self-defense, that doesn't even make it to the news because it happens daily. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about real survival, right? Now, again, keeping it real, is it likely that you'll need it in a disaster, in an emergency, an earthquake, flood? I have to pry open a window, a door after an earthquake and everything got out of place, and I have to pry open a window. If there's a car accident and I have my survival kit and I have my Glock knife in my survival kit, if I have to pry open a bent door, I'm not even kidding. I just got home. Just 5 minutes ago, I saw a car that was turned over on the highway, just flipped over, wheels pointing to the sky, upside down. If you're that guy in the car I just saw like 10 minutes ago, and you have to pry your way out of that car, you will want this knife. This one, is it capable of? Maybe. This one, I'm more certain it's going to be more likely to get the job done. This one, not so much. I don't think you're going to be prying open a door with your light companion Mora knife. This is a thicker stock. Maybe this, yeah, I put my vote in the Glock for that kind of thing. Prying, digging, breaking stuff, smashing stuff, using it like a hammer even. It's really a fantastic knife. These are fantastic knives too as a survival knife. And then there's the sheath as well. You're talking about a sheath which is perfect. It's maybe one of the best sheaths around. It's just plastic, hard plastic, doesn't barely any wiggle, and it's super secure. Just remove it like that. If not, it just stays in place. In the Mora, you have nice sheaths as well, but these are more of the friction type, which are not as secure. Better sheath for the Glock, definitely so, and you have this option of improving a little bit more with some customize of your own. A handle is nice in the Glock, and being a narrow tang as it is in the Mora, this is very good plastic, better even than the one in the Mora. I do like especially in the Mora Black, I like the tacky plastic rubbery feeling of this. What is it, like a silicone grip that it has? Very tacky, very comfortable. This is fantastic. But guys, yes, that's my take on it. These are all great knives. If I had to just pick one, I would go with a Glock knife as the best survival knife of the three, at least for the way I view survivalism in general. Guys, it's gonna be all for now. See you on our next video. Have an awesome day.